Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary with a knife video. I want to talk today about something that is certainly observable in my knife carrying habits and probably in some of yours as well. And it definitely comes into play when I'm doing reviews and when you're watching reviews. This is something you need to kind of keep in the back of your mind. But what I want to talk about is everyday carry versus occasional carry, EDC versus OC. And here's what I mean by that. For most of us who are sort of knife enthusiasts, YouTubers, people who have a few knives to choose from, what we're probably doing most of the time is occasional carry. What I mean by that is, you know, I love this American Lawman and I've had it for a long time, or had an American Lawman for a long time, but I don't carry this every single day. Often I may carry it for part of a day or part of a week. Same with my PM2 and my XM18 and a lot of other knives that I have. I like them, I carry them. Another great example would be the Custom Knife Factory Sequoia. So lots of great knives. My point here, or my consideration in this video though, is what makes the difference between a knife that's really well suited to everyday carry, that's a knife you're going to have with you day in, day out, all over the place, no matter where you're going or what you're doing, versus a knife that's well suited for occasional carry. All right, and let me give you some of my criteria, and then we can kind of go from there and see what you think. But a knife that is going to fit nearly every pocket is one of the main things that I look for. I've got some shorts and some pants where the depth on the pocket is a little short, and not all knives will fit, especially deep carry knives, or if it's a large knife that is also deep carry, that's sort of an especially bad situation. This is a good example, the Benchmade Crooked River. I honestly love this knife to pieces. However, if you look at the length of knife that's going into your pocket, it's really, really long, right? You've got a lot of distance there. So often I end up carrying this almost on an angle in certain pants. So a knife that fits every pocket. This knife, the Real Steel S571, is fairly short in this dimension, even though it's still got a nice big blade. It's definitely a full-size knife, but its folded configuration is such that most any pair of pants is going to fit this really well. Another good example of what I was saying there, Custom Knife Factory Sequoia. Here's a knife where there's a lot of distance. So there's how deep it's going to sink into your pocket. You can see straight down there's a lot of pocket depth required to facilitate that. So a knife that fits almost every pocket. A versatile blade shape. Okay, now I'm not saying a blade shape that can do everything and just excel at everything, but it has to be at least acceptable. Okay, so a knife like the Para 2, you know, is a pretty versatile blade shape. You've got belly, you've got a fairly long enough blade for most jobs, fairly thin edge geometry, you know, it's not that bad at all. A knife like the Benchmade Vicar. Now this knife, although it is fairly versatile and I have been very impressed with its cutting ability, this blade is not as versatile as, let's say, this one. Okay, it's just not. And so this knife, and for other reasons as well that we'll bring up, is probably more an occasional carry than an everyday carry, where this knife may be a little more suited to everyday carry, day in, day out type stuff. And so when we talk about a versatile blade, I mean blade grind, I mean length of blade. I don't want it to be too short, don't want to be too massive either. You know, a blade like this is not that suitable for EDC, right? You want it to have a decent steel that's going to hold an edge reasonably well. Of course, that depends a little bit on what kind of things you're going to encounter. If your lifestyle is such that, you know, you get out your knife, you know, twice a week, well, the blade steel isn't that critical because you're not going to dull a knife using it 2 times in a whole week. If, however, you find yourself using your knife 5 times a day, yeah, blade steel is going to matter more to you because there's more chance to dull that knife. Now, part of this, by the way, comes into maintenance, right? If you strop your knife every night when you get home or not, stuff like that. So anyway, blade, and a versatile blade. Durable. Now this is one of those things that you go, really durable? But it's surprising how much wear and tear something takes just by being in your pocket, okay? You wouldn't think so, but you know, how many of us have wrecked cell phones? How many of us had wallets fall apart completely? I have, let's see, I don't know, I've ruined pens, I've ruined all kinds of things that you're gonna carry day in and day out. There's a good chance that they're going to get beat up pretty badly. So you don't want a knife, or you probably don't want a knife like this. Okay, the fine finishes, the anodized titanium, the beauty and the art of this knife mean that this may not be a knife that is going to be bouncing around in your pocket, you know, climbing trees and, you know, crawling under things and playing with the kids. Another knife would be maybe this knife, you know, and anything really in those brightly colored anodized aluminum. They look amazing, and this does look really awesome. But that anodized, I mean that hard anodized aluminum will take a chip pretty easily. If you put this in your pocket with change or keys, it's going to get really marked up. Okay. Titanium, yes and no. So a knife like this, XM18, really, really good for EDC because the finishes on it, you could carry this all day, every day, and it would be really hard to pick up on any sort of wear and tear that has taken place. On the other hand, a knife with this kind of titanium, this is sort of a bead blasted. You guys know from Sebenzas that bead blasted titanium takes snail trails fairly easily and does mark up without too much effort. In addition to that, you may want to consider maintenance. Is this a knife that I'm going to have to tighten screws and clean out all the time? I think that one of the considerations is bearings versus washers, or what kind of opening mechanism, what kind of lock mechanism. All of those things would kind of fall under the maintenance kind of stuff. Is this a knife that I'm always going to have to be worried about and taking care of? Or is it a knife that, you know, I could put it in the washing machine, take it out, and it's going to work just as well? Or if I forget to take it out of my pocket and throw it in the washer and dryer, is it going to be ruined? Am I going to have to take it apart? Now, that's not going to be good for any knife, but there are some knives that are going to survive better than others. And those knives, you think about that, if it could go through a washing machine, well, what if you fall in a river when you're hiking? What if you are doing something that involves a lot of sand or grit? Maybe that's for your job, maybe it's where you're vacationing, whatever the case may be. Okay, so toughness and durability, right? And that's certainly a consideration that you probably want to get into. Now, the next one is comfortable handle. All right, especially if you're in that category of people who, I don't have a good example here. All the knives that I've got with me are really comfortable in hand, but a knife that, you know, has a lot of hot spots, or a knife that's really, really thin, or has, you know, metal frame or something like that, that's a knife that can get uncomfortable. And if, again, this changes a little bit from user to user, but if you're the guy who's using your knife all the time, every day, that's going to get annoying. Now, if you're the guy who takes your knife out twice a week, like I talked about before, maybe ergonomics don't matter that much to you. Maybe you look for an art knife or something like that. But for most people, ergonomics are going to matter, because one of the things I at least like to think about with my EDC is, you know, what if, I don't know, I get in a car crash, or I'm lost in the woods, or, you know, something happened, or I need to prepare a meal and I've got to use this knife, right, to do the whole job. Is it comfortable enough, and is it versatile enough to do, you know, a bunch of different things if I really, really needed it to? So let's get into, now that we've kind of gone through some of those examples, let's get into some knives that I think are really good for EDC and some that are more occasional carry. Now, an obvious choice I showed you guys earlier would be the Cold Steel Raja 2. This is a knife that you're just not going to carry every day, or most people are not going to be able to carry every day. I suppose there could be some whose life would allow for that. Compare this with something like a Para 2, you know, and you go, yeah, I can see why this is more of an EDC knife. All right. Now, I will say this, on the other end of that spectrum, I think it's important to at least give some consideration to defense, to hard use, to bush use, urban stuff. And a knife like this, this is the Boker Excalibur, really such a cool knife, beautiful design, you know, really, really thin, lightweight, but this knife is not heavily built. This is not a hard use knife, and so I wouldn't use this as my every single day, day in and day out carry. I kind of consider this the knife that I carry to church, okay? And outside of that, I don't carry it that often. I might carry it, again, it's a knife that I carry situationally, okay? An occasional carry. It's a knife that I carry if I know I'm not going to be doing things that I have to be too worried about wear and tear on my knife. A knife like this, on the other hand, back to the Crooked River, yeah, you could do just about anything with this knife and you don't have to worry that much about it. So yeah, pretty good option for EDC. Now let me say this, it's a little big, and I already pointed out, this is really on the borderline along with something like this. You know, these two are kind of pushing the envelope for everyday carry. Something like, here's another one that's sort of right on the borderline. Custom Knife Factory Sequoia. Again, it's lightweight, it's only 5 ounces, it's very slim, but it's a fairly large knife, okay? And the edge geometry is good, but not amazing. It's certainly a little thicker behind the edge than a lot of the knives I've already shown you here. And so those things make you say, well, maybe it's not a perfect everyday carry knife. Even something like the Spyderco Paramilitary, or the Spyderco Military. This is an awesome knife and I absolutely love it. One of my favorite knives. But guess what? It's pretty big for most people to carry all the time. Okay, and this one, of course, is also titanium, which makes it a little heavier, makes it take a little more wear and tear. So this is a knife that, you know, I probably do carry it a part of every week, but it's not a knife that I would think of as, you know, recommending to someone to carry every single day, all day, day in, day out. Same with the DOC, Microtech DOC. This was a dream knife of mine, okay, and I love it. I still love it. It's a great, great knife. However, I don't see this as the best everyday carry option. Okay, I more consider this an occasional carry, and that's how I carry it. You know, I probably carry this a day or two a month rather than every day. Something more like this, now, yeah, carry this all the time, no matter what you're wearing, where you're going, what you're doing, it's going to be just fine. Let's pull out the Benchmade Vickers again. Again, here's a knife that, because of blade style, okay, because of the handle size and shape, this is probably, again, not a knife that you're going to want to carry every single day. Now, I know that some people will do that. And certain jobs are going to lend themselves to different carry styles, okay? Someone, you know, a police officer could probably carry just about anything they want and not even notice it because they're already covered in gear, all right? Same is true of an EMT. An office worker, probably not. You know, maybe for an office worker, this would be the knife they'd want more often during the day. Now, honestly, if I went to work in an office, I would probably carry this and then have something like this in my bag or something, you know, something a little more heavy duty. Now, a good compromise between those, I think, would be this knife, which is very elegant, while at the same time very well built and robust enough to deal with most anything that you would have to deal with. All right, so that's my thoughts on everyday carry versus occasional carry. And I just feel like one of the things I wanted to put this out there because sometimes in a review, and you'll probably notice myself and other reviewers say, hey, this is good for da-da-da-da-da, right? And often the reason we're specifying that is because we're saying, hey, this is a great knife. You know, let's go back to the DOC. I think this is a great, great knife. Totally, totally awesome, but not a great knife for every single possible conceivable circumstance. Okay, the opposite end of the spectrum would go back to the Boker Excalibur here. Again, a great knife. I really think it's cool, but is it for every single circumstance? No, I don't think so. And probably you guys have some similar habits, and maybe we could have actually brought in some fixed blades here and added that to the mix as well, because I do occasionally carry fixed blade. Probably 1 or 2 days a week I'll carry a fixed blade. So that's my thoughts on everyday carry versus occasional carry, what I look for in everyday carry, what I recommend. So if you're watching a video and I say to you, hey, this is a great EDC, that means it has all the features that I've talked about. If I say to you, hey, this is more of a tactical knife, or this is more of an outdoor use knife, or whatever, that I'm kind of suggesting there that, hey, this may not be the best to carry with you day in and day out. This is more of a knife suited to a particular role. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will talk to you soon.